Hi everyone, welcome to my narrative writing workshop, and I've named it Narrative Writing Made Easy because I want to introduce to you an easy way of writing a story. Now, as you know, most SPM questions, you will have two questions on narrative writing, so it is very important. So welcome and join me for the next 40 minutes or so on this workshop. And before we go into the writing, let's look at some SPM questions so that we get familiarized with what exactly you're going to face. Now, if you look at the slide, the first question is write a story about how you help Puan Ramla and what you learned. So two characters are already given here, so you need to highlight the word you and highlight the word Puan Ramla. So the story is how you help Puan Ramla, right? Another one is write a story about someone you know who took a big risk and had a good result. Begin your story with everybody said that the plan would never work, it was far too risky. So this one, the introduction is given, okay, or the ending is given. Okay, next one, another type of question could be honesty is always the best policy. Describe an experience when this was true for you. So this one comes with a proverb, right? So you have to know the meaning of the proverb before you can write the story. And this one, the last one which I've highlighted, is what we're going to do today because I think it is rather simple. Write a story about someone who regretted his actions. So it could be someone who did something wrong and later regretted and felt sorry for what he had done, right? So now I'm going to introduce to you the plot that I have simplified. So there will be 4 parts to our planning. The first one is beginning, and then you have problem, solution, and ending. So if you have pen and paper, I would like you to just make some notes for this one so that it will help you as you plan your own story later. Okay, so what do we have in the beginning? So in the beginning, it may be 1 to 2 paragraphs, it doesn't matter, but it shouldn't be more than that. So beginning, it should be about setting the time and place of the story, when was it, and the background, the situation that was going on at that time, and maybe you want to introduce the people involved, just 1 or 2 of you. And in the problem section, you would begin to reveal the problem and build up the conflict until you reach the highest point. That is the problem. So for this method, I don't recommend you add solution. You add who came to help. All right, so the solution comes later. So in the third part of the story is where you introduce who came to help, the people involved, and the actions taken to solve the conflict. Okay, and then the ending is where all the problems are resolved, right? Whether good or bad ending, it comes to an end, and there's someone who's thanking someone, there's someone who felt grateful. Maybe you want to end it with a lesson learned. If it's not given, you would like to add that. So that's it. So simple, right? Very easy. 4 parts to the story: the beginning, the problem, the solution, and the ending. Now, before we look at the writing or the answer, let's look at some questions to help you as you prepare your story, even during the exam. You might want to keep these questions in mind. Firstly, we are going to write a story about someone who did not listen to advice and later regretted his or her actions. So I have decided I want to write about an accident. So these are the questions I'm going to think about very quickly. Where did the incident take place? Okay, I put here focus on one place only, not too many places. When did it happen? Who were involved, right? Who was in the car? Who was the other victims involved? How did the incident take place? And then what did you and the other people do, and you have to also decide how did the story end, right, within 5 to 10 minutes of your preparation. Okay, and if you look, I prepared this worksheet here: a day I will never forget, or an accident, an unforgettable event. All right, so I would probably scribble very quickly, beginning, the situation happening. Okay, borrowed dad's car, took my friends out for a spin, right, and then problem, accident happened on the highway maybe. Okay, and then something happened, all the accident words here, and then the solution will be who called the police, who came, passers-by came to help, sent, and the injuries, right? And then ending would be someone thanked someone felt grateful, as usual. Okay, so it's very easy worksheet for you. So before we start writing, okay, the beginning, we would ask ourselves, how do I start? Okay, how do I create suspense, or what we writers call the hook? How do we want to hook our reader? And for you SPM students, you want to hook the examiner who is reading your essay. Now remember, they are reading say 60 to 80 essays per day in order to finish, and it's not easy. So we want to be original, and then we want to create this suspense and interest so that people will keep reading, right? So I'm giving you here some examples to create that hook. It was late at night and there were very few customers in the convenience store. Lehman was alone. He looked at his watch. It was 2:50 a.m. Okay, so very quickly I created this atmosphere: late at night, few customers, Lehman was alone. He looked at his watch. It was 2:50 a.m. Now if you were in a drama, you would probably hear the music as kwa kwa kwa, something is going to happen, right? So Hakim's loud singing was drowned by the roar of the lawnmower as the gardener fatherly worked the field. So you created this picture in someone's head, as well as the sounds that they could hear, and that is good writing. Okay, so immediately I can hear Hakim singing very loudly, and even louder was the lawnmower. All right, another one: listening to my MP3 player as I sat to wait for my friend, I nodded my head to the rhythm of Yuna's song. You see, so immediately I'm also nodding my head. So you create this kind of atmosphere where people want to know what's going on and the next thing to do, right? Okay, now look at the next example. What? You failed your exam again. What did I do? I use dialogue. Okay, that's another technique to use to start your essay immediately. My dad roared into my ears. I'm sure you have read this one. Fire, fire. Okay, so this is the method using dialogue. He was really upset with me when my mother told him the bad news. So already stated the bad news, so people will want to read actually what was the bad news. Okay, so this is the hook. In the pitch darkness of my bedroom, I lay awake thinking of my future. The click of the front door announced father's return. So I didn't say I heard father open the door. That's normal. You want it to be even better. You say the click of the front door announced father's return. My heart was beating wildly. Biasa. We read many times already. But if you say my heart thumped loudly as I waited for him to enter my room. Again, you are creating suspense. You are creating interest into your writing. Okay? Right, so we're going to go into the story, and I'm going to share with you how I answer the question. So I've given it a title, A Day I Will Never Forget. So it's an accident, right? So this is how I start. You can look at it and see the techniques I've used. The sun was warm on my back as I slithered into Dad's old Mazda. I had just gotten my license. and I thought of surprising my friends at school. As I sat on the worn leather seat, my heart was beating wildly. "Be careful!" Mom shouted from the kitchen. I waved confidently as I swerved the car out of the driveway. Little did I know it would turn out to be the worst day of my life. Okay, so in one paragraph, I've already indicated something bad is going to happen. And what are the techniques I use? If you see the notes I've given here, first I started with describing the setting, the time and place, possibly in the afternoon because the sun was warm on my back, right? And I also added details to make it more interesting. What are the details? Can you see? That's all Mazda. Okay, and what else can you see? Worn leather seat. Okay, that's Mazda, very old. Okay, the leather seat is very old, worn leather seat. My heart was beating wildly. "Be careful!" Mom shouted from the kitchen. Again, number 3, I added dialogue. Okay, and then what I did, the last one, I want you to see the last sentence. "Little did I know it would turn out to be the worst day of my life." You look at the notes, it's called foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is a technique to give a little hint to people what's going to come, what's going to happen, to create suspense. Now, we know a lot about flashback, right? We watch a lot of drama. We also watch a lot of foreshadowing. Maybe we don't know. Now, for example, when a woman is waiting for the husband to come back and she's making a cup of tea, and suddenly the cup fell and broke, and the music will be loud, and it gives you a kind of suspense to expect something bad is going to happen to the husband. All right, so this is called foreshadowing. All right, so now how do you write the problem? Okay, we've seen how we start. Okay, we use setting to create suspense. How do you do the problem? Now you just have to review the problem through events, through dialogues, through actions. Okay, so this is how I did it. Let's read together. "When I reached my school, Lily and Wei Ming jumped into the car, squealing in delight. Girls, they are always giggling and shouting and screaming. All right, "Let's go for a drink," Wei Ming said. Again, the dialogue is coming. "We decided to head to our favorite blues cafe." I added details. "Let's use the highway," I suggested, eager to show off my driving skills. 10 minutes later, we were cruising on the highway. Wei Ming was fiddling with the radio. Another good word. Fiddling means you are turning the knobs here and there, trying to switch on the radio, and trying to get Hits FM. Again, details, names of places, names of radio station to add realism, right? Before long, all of us were singing "Just the Way You Are" with Bruno Mars. Now you can add your latest songs, don't worry. Suddenly, the radio went dead. With one hand on the wheel, I tried to adjust the knobs. I took my eyes off the road for a split second and turned the volume knob again. To my horror, I suddenly saw a red conceal in front of me. I swerved to the right. That Mazda suddenly had a life of its own. I had lost control. I hit the divider and the car flew and turned turtle. I remembered shouting at Lily to get down, and everything went black, right? So I have used dialogue. If you can see the notes I've given. I also use names to make it real, and I've also added some interesting phrases like "took my eyes off the road for a split second," right? And "swerve." Okay, these are words that you would expect in an accident. "Turn turtle." The lorry turned turtle, went upside down. Okay, everything went black. It suggests total blackout. Fainted, unconscious. Okay. So we have looked at beginning, we have also looked at problem. So now we're going to look at solution, right? So who came to help and what happened after the accident? Okay, so what are the actions taken to solve the problem? We were rushed into the emergency unit. Someone had called for help. Doctors immediately flew into action. So when you use this phrase, it immediately gives you a picture of the nurses, of doctors rushing everywhere and trying to tend to the victims, right? Wei Ming's leg had to be operated immediately. Tears well up in my eyes as I thought that Wei Ming might never walk again. So he or she was alone and with her own thoughts, and tears was about to flow, right? Lily escaped with minor bruises, the word bruises. 2 paramedics worked on my broken leg, which had lots of broken glasses on it. Even the paramedics came to help. After that, our parents were waiting to see us. Mom choked and just helped me. Mom hugged him, right? Mom choked here. Choke means could not say anything, maybe was too scared or too sad. Choke, tak terkata apa-apa, ya. So I expected Dad to give me a lecture, but he did not say anything. So this is not textbook writing where you are so used to listening to these phrases. These are really fresh, comes from the heart. Okay, so write something that you know. Write something about football if you're familiar with football, so that the vocabulary, phrases, you know the Premier League terms and all that. Write something about K-pop if you really know about K-pop, and you can use it in your essay. Okay, now what about the ending? Very simple ending here. The next morning, where everything going to be resolved, the next morning the doctor came and gave me some good news. Wei Ming was out of the ICU. I heaved a sigh of relief. Alright, so I've underlined the heave a sigh of relief to show you some good phrases and thank God for His mercy. We were also thankful to the doctors and nurses who worked tirelessly throughout the night. Again, very good phrase here. I really regretted my actions. I should have listened to Mom's advice in my haste to show off. Okay, in my haste to show off is also another good phrase. Okay, I have put my friends' lives in danger. Okay, very simple ending. So we have done the 4-part story, very simple one, because SPM doesn't give you much time to write a really long one. Roughly about 350 words will do. If you can write more, why not? Okay, but I would expect you to make time also for editing. Read back what you have done and try to correct the mistakes. So what makes an A story? Just want to give you some pointers. Firstly, it must answer the question. Alright, that means if the task calls you to describe someone who regretted his action, then the story must be about that someone. So if it's asking you about how you helped Puan Ramla, then it must be about you and Puan Ramla. It shouldn't be about somebody else. Alright, and the ideas are organized, well developed, and supported. Right, so you can't just say they were on the highway and then they hit a car and then they were sent to the hospital. It's not developed. Alright, so our story just now was really developed. Okay, it also described what happened to each one of them and who helped them. Alright, what happened at the hospital. So it has to be interesting. When it's full of suspense, then it's going to be interesting. And of course, accurate spelling and punctuation throughout the essay. It couldn't be just first 2 paragraphs. It has to be the whole essay, has to be accurate. Otherwise the band for marks will go down. Right, Now I want to highlight the last one, precise and interesting vocabulary. A lot of students memorize bombastic words and try to put in all throughout the essay, or maybe they realize and forgot and they put in at the last paragraph. I would advise to rather go for simple words that people can understand and work the pictures, show people the pictures in their mind rather than through bombastic words. Here precise means accurate, right? So if you do not use it accurately, it will be very awkward. So once it's awkward, you won't tend to score in your exam. Okay, so these are some of the proverbs and idiomatic expressions that you want to learn and make sure you know, because some of it came out in the exam. So I won't go through them, but some of these are like important ones, like better be safe than sorry. You can use it for directed writing as well as continuous writing. How about prevention is better than cure? This one came out in the exam. Do not count your chickens before they are hatched. Honesty is the best policy, again came out already. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Health is wealth is very common. Better late than never. A stitch in time saves 9. So better be safe than sorry, better late than never, prevention is better than cure. They all means the same thing and you can use it anywhere. Okay, so now before we go to the next section on question and answer, I just want to share with you how to make your ideas during description to be more interesting, how to show and not just tell. For example, when you are in PT3, probably you would write, he walked into the room angrily. Okay, now here, he stormed into the room. That's better. Sweeping the chairs which were in his way. Right? She cried when she heard that her grandmother had passed away. So instead of saying she cried, I used her eyes were brimming with tears as she received the sad news. So these are some of the ideas, and you can get it a lot on the internet about details that show rather than tell. For example, if you're nervous, instead of saying he was nervous, you said his teeth chattered, one could see her fingers trembling, her voice quivered. Right? And so there are many more. I wouldn't read it due to time, but you can easily get it online. So these are some interesting words that you can use. Now what about words for accidents? For example here, he swerved to avoid the oncoming truck. In his drunken stupor, the driver crashed into the lamppost. The ear-splitting crash, the loud crash, shattered the silence of the classroom. The victim was flung into the air. The motorist sped away. He crashed into the blue proton, shaken by the collision. Alright? So you need to know some of these words. Hi, now we've reached to our last part, which is the frequently asked questions. So the first question that I'm always answering is, if I wrote out a point, would I fail the exam? I get this message a lot on my Facebook. No, you won't fail. The examiners would do impression marking, meaning they will read the whole essay and try to fit you into a suitable band. And if you wrote out a point, you would probably be penalized just one band lower. So do not worry too much if you realize coming out of the exam hall, OMG, you know, I answered wrongly, and you know, it's the end of the world. Don't think like that, right? So their examiners are always very nice people. They are also teachers like us, and we always try to give marks wherever possible, so you won't get 0. Okay, so 0 is where you blatantly wrote something irrelevant and we cannot understand at all, and there's no English to mark at all. That also you still get some marks. Okay, Okay, so do not worry about that. The second one is, would I get better marks if I were to memorize essays? Now, throughout the years, we also see a lot of students memorizing essays, and sometimes it does not answer the question, and sometimes it does answer the question, but it's too good to be true. They will also compare your directed writing, and if your directed writing is not as good as the one you have memorized, then you'll probably be marked down according to your directed writing. So be careful about memorizing. And what happens if your friends also memorize the same essay? Let's say coming from the same tuition center, sometimes we find that 30 students answer the same question, and they also wrote the same thing, except that they maybe changed the name a bit, right? So be careful about that. It's better to go for originality, like I said, right from your heart. Prepare now, don't wait till the exam. Prepare now, prepare a sad story, prepare a happy story. Let your teacher mark it for you. Ask her how to make it better, or you can even ask me, right? Get in touch with me on Facebook, SPM English 1119, right? I will not be able to mark your essay, but I might give you ideas on how to make it better. Which is more important, grammar or interesting vocabulary? Now, this one is always debatable. So when it comes down to the crunch, would we choose an essay with a better grammar or with a more interesting vocabulary? Most of the time we would look at grammar rather than interesting vocabulary for marks. So would you get better marks if you have more interesting vocabulary but same grammar proficiency? Then yes, we look at interesting vocabulary. But if your grammar is not right and you have a lot of interesting vocabulary all over your essay, we still look at grammar. All right, so please do take care about the common errors. Try to, in the next few months, reduce your common errors. So if there are any questions, I will be ready to answer at the comment section there. So thank you for being with me. Enjoyed the workshop very much, and would welcome all your comments and questions. Thank you.